of shit. Stick your Christmas up your ass, ho ho fucking ho.
Merry Christmas, friends! Normally at this time of year I would try to find some way to celebrate Christmas in a Halloween way. Unfortunately, everything's still closed, and we've already reviewed the good movies that mix the two holidays, Nightmare Before Christmas, and a Christmas horror movie called Black Christmas. So it seemed like this would be a quiet, uneventful Christmas. Until I stumbled upon this 20-year-old animated film on Peacock. You all know Casper, right? The friendly ghost? I reviewed a really good live-action film made by Universal in the 90s that starred this classic character. Yeah, unfortunately the momentum made from that movie derailed pretty quickly with a bunch of low-budget follow-ups in the 2000s, most of which weren't at all attached to the Christina Ricci film. This is one of those movies. A cheaply made holiday cash grab known as Casper's Haunted Christmas. Now, right away I was cringing just looking at this animation. Look at this crap! Look at it! This looks like the pre-alpha build of a Pixar movie. I know this was the year 2000 and computer animation was still fairly young, but Toy Story came out 5 years earlier and it looks way better than this. The movements feel rigid and the characters feel so bland. This is why I call this a low-budget film, because it looks like they wanted to do something more like Pixar, but they ran out of money too early to finish the animation. Anyway, enough of those complaints. What's this movie about? Well, it starts, of course, with the ghostly trio scaring the daylights out of people at a local drive-in theater.
I made that batch myself. Let's just say it ain't exactly, butter.
Great. We're not even 5 minutes in and already we've got a pee joke. Can you just kill me now before it gets worse? No. Worth a shot. The funny thing is that everyone is just playing into these cliches, but Casper seems to be the only one with any self-awareness.
The stereotypical thing to do now would be to yell, "A ghost!" and run away screaming. But come on! That's so been done.
It's one of the few small positives about the film, that it does have some self-aware humor that's usually delivered through Casper. Well, after the Scarefest, they get a visit from a ghost cop named Sniffle, one of the most pathetic characters in the Casper universe. Well, at least what you see here is the worst of his loser qualities. He doesn't get much more pathetic than this through the rest of the film.
I just heard there's a Pauly Shore Film Festival playing downtown.
I'm there!
Never mind. Well, it turns out that Sniffle is actually here for Casper. Apparently going a whole year without scaring anybody on purpose is against the law for ghosts. When the uncles respond by bullying Sniffle, they inadvertently summon the evil king of ghosts, a giant green guy called Kabosh, and he's not happy. He then tells the ghost trio what's at stake if Casper fails to scare anybody by Christmas Day.
This is the dark, an empty, desolate prison where you will dwell for all eternity.
I assume he's talking about Purgatory, or New Jersey. So with that, Kabosh literally throws Casper and his uncles to a snow-covered town called Chris, Massachusetts. Yeah, advanced warning, this movie's dialogue is at least 25% if not 50% puns, and it's just as face-palmingly cringe-worthy as it sounds. Take our female co-star for example, a girl named Holly Jollymore. In all fairness, at least she's aware of how punny her name is, most likely because her main character trait is that she hates Christmas. Her family and the rest of the town, on the other hand, live and breathe the Yuletide season. You've got Dad here who's like Ned Flanders, except he's too over the top to be funny, and Mom who's basically a walking, talking 50s housewife stereotype. Seriously though, these characters are so one-dimensional, but we keep having to listen to them praise Christmas and do other excessive stuff. Also, does no one in this town believe in ghosts at all? The trio give it their best, but all the adults barely even blink. They just assume they're actors using Hollywood tricks. That's not a joke, that's the actual writing. But what's worse is that Holly is apparently so clueless about ghosts that she spends about an hour of screen time believing that Casper is a talking snowman. Because Casper goes along with the lie, it does lead to a subplot about being honest, and I can appreciate that in any kids movie, but this is just so stupid. They've obviously heard of ghosts because they're auditioning people to play the ghosts in A Christmas Carol, but they see one in real life and assume it's anything else. What makes it weirder is this quote.
They didn't scare you, did they?
I'm into weird. Halloween. Now there's a good holiday.
Definitely a statement I can get behind. It's Holly's best line. Now, why don't you know what a ghost looks like? A lot of this movie is the parents thinking the ghostly trio are actors and keeping them in their home, Casper debating if he should tell his new friend that he's really a ghost, and the trio trying to get Casper to scare someone, but something keeps going wrong. Hey look, product placement! No bad movie is complete without it. It's just a shame they couldn't get Baskin-Robbins to shell out enough sponsorship money to finish the animation. Eventually, the ghostly trio gets desperate and decides to pull a fast one on Kibosh by calling Spooky, a ghost who looks like Casper but with this bulbous black nose and the most stereotypically New York accent I've ever heard.
So is assault, muggins, and poi snatching. I need more scaring opportunities.
Yeah, his girlfriend is even worse. The plot involves Spooky being disguised as Casper and pulling off a scare so that Kibosh will buy it and give the trio their scare licenses back. Spooky tries his tricks on the Jollymore parents by way of slasher movie references, but just watch what happens with the Psycho reference. Well, now you're scarred for afterlife. How about trying a 90s slasher reference on Mom?
Do you like scary cookies?
I don't think Christmas cookies are very scary.
Don't you hang up on me!
Heavens, I would never hang up on someone.
Okay, I know this is meant to be funny, but have these people even heard of words like 911 or home invasion? But things get worse when Holly tries to give a card to who she thinks is Casper, but it's Spooky going off on an angry rant. He's not even trying to hide his stereotypical accent anymore, and yet Holly still mistakes him for Casper and gets mad when Spooky is rude to her. Then, of course, she takes it out on the real Casper, who has no clue about anything. I'm really tired of seeing this mistaken identity cliche in kids' movies because it's so obvious that it's someone else's voice and mannerisms, but the main character still falls for it. Why is everyone in this movie an idiot? So, of course, it's a dramatic moment of mistrust between Holly and Casper, with Casper still not knowing what happened. How do they solve this? Wait, what? A musical number? Why? What's in this movie that it feels justified in throwing this 80s ballad at us all of a sudden? Oh, it's just Casper doing a 90s boombox thing with a fourth wall breaking cassette. You know what? It's still stupid. So much of this movie just feels nonsensical and forced. So let's just get to the climax. Since Spooky failed at scaring, the ghostly trio come up with a plan to make everyone in town hate the Jollymores by taking all the presents in town and storing them at the Jollymores' house.
Every person in Chris liked Christmas a lot, but the trio, the ghostly trio, did not.
And now there's a Grinch reference. Am I watching a Casper movie or an episode of The Simpsons? But Spooky finds out about the plan and that the trio was just using him for their own gain, so he teams up with Casper to stop them and get some revenge. They do this by dressing up the giant Santa to look like Kibosh, the one being the trio is afraid of. And not so surprisingly for a kids movie, this works and scares them. The twist is that the act of Casper scaring his uncles actually counts towards the 1 scare per year requirement. So when the real Kibosh shows up, he lets them off the hook and gives them all their scare licenses back. But Kibosh has other questions when he sees that the trio had set up traps among the presents. So what do the uncles do to cover themselves? You know, slapstick humor is inherently cheap, but even it can be funny when it's well thought out and used in clever ways. This just feels as forced as most of the jokes in the movie. A weak excuse to see the trio get beaten up by machinery. And to top it all off, they get chopped up by the ceiling fan and make indoor snow. That's surprisingly morbid. I like it. So with all this holiday cheer, truths are revealed and Casper and Holly make amends. They decide to seal this with a rather awkward mistletoe scene. Oh god, it's a video game glitch! And with that, that was Casper's Haunted Christmas. By now it should be obvious what I think. This movie is trash. The animation is cheap and creepy in a bad way, the writing is very cliche, and the humor feels half-assed. Remember how the 95 movie actually had some good heartfelt scenes in it? This one feels like it threw some scenes together to fill that quota, but no real effort was put in. It's always sad to see a classic character get twisted with cheap holiday cash grabs like this. Casper is a great character, especially for Halloween, and maybe putting him in a Christmas movie could work if it's done way better than this. So, should you watch this movie? No. Even if you have Peacock, don't watch it. If you're a parent watching this channel, have your kids watch Nightmare Before Christmas while you watch Black Christmas in the other room. Well, it's been an interesting year, and we're all hoping that 2021 will be much better for Halloween. So in that spirit, I'm gonna stay in the cabin and marathon horror movies until the new year comes. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Halloween! Goodbye, friends!